What if the snack sitting on your kitchen counter right now was either quietly rebuilding your body from the inside out or slowly dismantling it? Most men over 60 never think twice about the nuts they reach for. A handful here, a sprinkle there. But here is what the research is revealing. The specific nuts you eat regularly have a measurable, direct impact on your circulation, your hormone levels, your nerve function, your erection, and your overall energy. And when those four systems start to slip, which they do, silently, gradually, the first things men notice are lower drive, less stamina, and a confidence that starts to fade without any obvious explanation. I am Dr. Rachael Augustine, and on this channel, we talk about what actually works for men and women over 60 who want to stay strong, sharp, and fully alive, not just surviving, but genuinely thriving. Today, we are going to go deep on something that sounds surprisingly simple but has real science behind it, the nuts that support male vitality and the ones that work against it. I will walk you through 5 specific nuts that nourish the vascular system, protect nerve function, and provide the raw materials your body needs to maintain healthy testosterone as you age. Then, I will name 2 nuts that many men eat every single day, ones that are widely considered healthy, but that can quietly undermine everything you are trying to build. Stay with me all the way through, because the second nut on the avoid list is one most men would never suspect, and the explanation for why it causes problems is going to change the way you shop forever. All right, let's begin with the foundation. First thing I'll discuss is why nuts matter more than you think after 60. Your body's ability to maintain healthy sexual function depends on 3 interconnected systems working in harmony: circulation, hormonal output, and nerve integrity. Blood has to move freely. Arteries have to stay flexible and open. The lining of those vessels, a thin, delicate layer called the endothelium, has to be healthy enough to respond to the chemical signals that trigger increased blood flow when the body needs it. Hormones have to be present at adequate levels. Testosterone does not just influence libido, it affects energy, muscle tone, cognitive sharpness, mood stability, and bone density. After 60, natural testosterone production slows, but the rate at which it declines is heavily influenced by lifestyle, including diet. And nerves have to be intact. Sensation, arousal, and the pleasure of intimacy all depend on healthy nerve pathways. When nerves become damaged or depleted from oxidative stress, everything feels muted. The feedback loop between the brain and the body weakens. Now here is where nuts come in. Real, whole nuts, not roasted in industrial oils, not coated in sugar, are among the most concentrated sources of the specific nutrients that support all 3 of these systems simultaneously. Healthy, unsaturated fats keep arterial walls supple. The amino acid L-arginine gives the body the raw material to produce nitric oxide, which is the chemical messenger that signals blood vessels to relax and expand. Zinc is one of the primary building blocks of testosterone. Selenium supports hormonal production and prostate health. Magnesium reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated, actively suppresses testosterone output. Vitamin E and polyphenols act as antioxidants, shielding nerve tissue from the cellular damage that accumulates with age. The right nuts deliver all of this in one simple, convenient package. The wrong ones interfere with absorption, promote inflammation, or introduce compounds that stress the very systems you are trying to protect. Let us look at each one individually. Number 1. Walnuts. If there is one nut that belongs at the very top of the list for men concerned about vascular health and vitality, it is the walnut. And the reason comes down to chemistry. Walnuts are one of the only plant-based foods that provide a meaningful amount of alpha-linolenic acid, which is the plant form of omega-3 fatty acid. Omega-3s are essential for keeping arterial walls elastic. As we age, arteries naturally become stiffer, a process called arteriosclerosis. This stiffness restricts blood flow and forces the heart to work harder. Omega-3 fatty acids actively slow this process by reducing inflammation in the vessel walls and helping them retain flexibility. But what really sets walnuts apart for male vitality is their arginine content. L-arginine is an amino acid the body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the molecule responsible for vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels that allows blood to surge into tissue and sustain that flow under pressure. Without adequate nitric oxide production, the physical mechanics of a healthy erection simply cannot function properly. With consistent, adequate levels, blood flow becomes stronger, more responsive, and more sustained. Walnuts also deliver vitamin E and a class of plant compounds called polyphenols. Together, these act as a protective shield around your nerve tissue. Nerve endings throughout the pelvic region are what make sensation possible. They transmit signals up through the spinal cord to the brain. When those nerves are under oxidative attack, which happens constantly as we age, sensation dulls, responsiveness slows, and the experience of intimacy becomes less intense. Walnuts help interrupt that process by neutralizing the free radicals that damage nerve tissue. One additional benefit worth mentioning: the healthy fats in walnuts provide the cholesterol your body needs to synthesize hormones. Many men do not realize that cholesterol, specifically HDL cholesterol in proper balance, is actually a precursor to testosterone. Eating enough healthy fat supports the entire hormonal production chain. A practical serving is about a quarter cup, or roughly a small handful, eaten daily. They work well added to oatmeal in the morning, tossed into a salad at lunch, or simply eaten on their own between meals. The key is daily consistency over weeks and months, not occasional use. Number 2. Almonds. Almonds are widely eaten as a health food, and for good reason, but most people do not fully appreciate exactly why they support male health specifically. The standout nutrient in almonds for men over 60 is magnesium. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, but one of its most important roles for older men is its relationship with cortisol. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. In short bursts, it serves important functions, but when cortisol remains chronically elevated, which happens commonly in men dealing with poor sleep, financial stress, health concerns, or even prolonged low-grade dietary inflammation, it actively competes with testosterone production. The body essentially prioritizes stress response over reproductive hormone output. Magnesium helps lower baseline cortisol levels. When cortisol comes down, the body has more capacity to produce testosterone naturally. This is not a quick fix, but over weeks of consistent magnesium intake through food sources like almonds, many men notice improved mood, better sleep quality, and a gradual return of energy and drive. Almonds are also rich in vitamin E, which functions as one of the most effective fat-soluble antioxidants available through food. Vitamin E specifically protects the endothelium, that thin inner lining of blood vessels we mentioned earlier. Oxidative damage to the endothelium is a primary driver of vascular dysfunction with age. By protecting that lining, vitamin E helps vessels remain responsive, elastic, and capable of facilitating the blood flow that healthy sexual function requires. Finally, almonds provide a slow, steady release of energy through their combination of protein, fat, and fiber. This prevents the blood sugar spikes and crashes that, as we will discuss in more detail later, are directly linked to testosterone suppression. Stable blood sugar equals more stable hormone output, more consistent energy, and better performance across the board. Eat almonds raw or lightly dry roasted, without added salt, sugar, or coatings. A small handful several times per week is sufficient to deliver meaningful benefit. Number 3. Pistachios. Pistachios deserve far more attention than they typically receive in conversations about men's health, because the research on them is genuinely impressive. Like walnuts, pistachios are an excellent source of L-arginine, making them a strong natural contributor to nitric oxide production and healthy vasodilation. But what elevates pistachios above many other nuts is the body of clinical evidence supporting their specific benefit for erectile function. Studies involving men with known erectile difficulties have found that regular daily consumption of pistachios over a period of several weeks produces measurable improvements, not just in self-reported satisfaction, but in objective measurements of blood flow using ultrasound imaging. That is a remarkable finding for a food that most people consider simply a snack. The mechanism behind this effect involves multiple pathways working together. The arginine content drives nitric oxide synthesis. A group of plant compounds in pistachios called phytosterols actively suppress the reabsorption of LDL cholesterol, the type that deposits along arterial walls and progressively narrows the diameter of blood vessels. When those narrowed vessels run through the pelvic region, the consequence is reduced erectile function. By keeping LDL lower, pistachios help maintain the arterial diameter necessary for adequate blood delivery. Pistachios are also rich in antioxidants, including lutein and gamma-tocopherol, which provide additional protection against vascular inflammation and oxidative stress. The most practical approach is to keep a small portion, roughly an ounce, or about 49 kernels by standard measurement, available as an afternoon snack. They are satisfying, portable, and actively working in your favor with every handful. Number 4. Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts occupy a unique position on this list because their primary benefit comes not from common nutrients, but from one trace mineral that most men are chronically deficient in without realizing it: selenium. Selenium is not discussed nearly enough in mainstream health conversations, but for men over 60, it is critically important. Selenium supports testosterone synthesis directly. It plays a role in the enzymatic processes that convert cholesterol into steroid hormones, including testosterone. It is also essential for prostate health. The prostate gland actually concentrates selenium at higher levels than almost any other tissue in the body, reflecting how dependent it is on adequate supply. Beyond testosterone and prostate support, selenium functions as a powerful antioxidant in its own right. It forms the backbone of a class of protective enzymes called glutathione peroxidases, which neutralize harmful peroxides that can damage cell membranes, including those in sperm cells and nerve tissue. Here is what makes Brazil nuts particularly remarkable. The selenium concentration in a single Brazil nut is so high that just 1 or 2 per day can fully meet the body's daily requirement. No other common food source comes close to this level of selenium density. However, and this is important, more is not better with selenium. Because the mineral accumulates in tissue rather than being rapidly excreted, consuming large amounts regularly can lead to toxicity. Symptoms of selenium excess include fatigue, hair loss, and neurological effects. The guideline is clear: 1 to 2 Brazil nuts per day is the optimal amount. Not a handful, not a bowlful, 1 or 2, eaten consistently, provide everything the body needs. Many men find it useful to eat 1 Brazil nut in the evening, since testosterone production is partially linked to overnight hormonal cycles. Supporting selenium levels before sleep may contribute to stronger hormonal output through the night. Number 5. Hazelnuts. Hazelnuts may be the least expected entry on this list, but their nutritional profile makes them exceptionally valuable for men focused on long-term vitality and nerve health. Where hazelnuts stand apart is their folate content. Folate, also known as vitamin B9, is perhaps best known for its role in prenatal health, but it is equally important for adult nerve function at any age. The nervous system relies on folate for the synthesis and repair of myelin, the protective coating that surrounds nerve fibers and allows electrical signals to travel quickly and accurately. When myelin breaks down, which can happen due to age, nutritional deficiency, or chronic inflammation, nerve signals slow, weaken, and misfire. In the context of male sexual health, this translates to reduced sensation, slower arousal response, and diminished intensity during climax. By providing dietary folate consistently, hazelnuts help maintain the integrity of the nerve pathways that make sensation possible. This is a slow, cumulative benefit, one that builds over months of consistent intake, but it is meaningful for men who want to preserve the quality of their intimate lives as they age. Hazelnuts also deliver magnesium, contributing to the cortisol-lowering, testosterone-supporting benefits we covered with almonds. And their fat profile, primarily oleic acid, the same monounsaturated fat predominant in olive oil, actively supports cardiovascular health and lowers inflammatory markers. One underappreciated benefit: hazelnuts are highly satiating despite their relatively modest calorie footprint compared to some other nuts. For men managing body weight, which matters significantly for testosterone levels, since excess adipose tissue converts testosterone to estrogen through a process called aromatization, hazelnuts are a smarter snack choice than most processed alternatives. A small daily serving, eaten on their own or mixed with other nuts from this list, provides a consistent supply of folate, magnesium, and heart-healthy fat that accumulates into real, lasting results. Now let's talk about the 2 nuts to limit. These next 2 are going to surprise some of you because both are widely promoted as healthy and both are extremely popular. But the evidence suggests that for men specifically, particularly men over 60 who are concerned about hormonal health and circulation, these 2 should be consumed sparingly, not as daily staples. The first nut to limit: peanuts. Here is something most people do not know. Peanuts are not botanically nuts at all. They are legumes. They grow underground, in a completely different plant family than tree nuts. This distinction matters for several reasons. The first concern is a class of compounds called aflatoxins. Peanuts grow in warm, humid conditions underground, which makes them uniquely susceptible to colonization by a mold called Aspergillus. This mold produces aflatoxins, naturally occurring mycotoxins that are among the most potent liver stressors found in the food supply. The liver is the primary organ responsible for metabolizing and clearing hormones from the bloodstream, including estrogen. When liver function is burdened, even subtly, hormone regulation suffers. Excess estrogen is not cleared efficiently, and testosterone balance shifts unfavorably. The second problem is the fatty acid profile of peanuts. They are high in omega-6 fatty acids, specifically linoleic acid. The human body requires both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, but the ratio between them matters enormously. Modern diets are already massively skewed toward omega-6 excess, and when omega-6 fatty acids dominate without adequate omega-3 to balance them, they drive systemic inflammation. Inflammatory signaling affects arterial elasticity, suppresses hormone signaling pathways, and can irritate vulnerable tissues, including the prostate. Eating peanuts occasionally is unlikely to cause meaningful harm. The concern arises when peanuts, or commercial peanut butter made with hydrogenated oils and added sugar, become the primary nut in a man's daily diet. Over years, that pattern can contribute to the slow hormonal and circulatory erosion that many men simply attribute to getting older. If you love peanut butter, look for natural versions made from peanuts only, with no added oils or sugar, and treat it as an occasional food rather than a daily staple. The second nut to limit: cashews. Cashews are creamy, mild, and satisfying, which is exactly why they are so easy to overeat. But for men focused on testosterone and mineral absorption, cashews come with a significant downside that most people have never heard of. Cashews contain relatively high levels of phytic acid, also called phytate. Phytic acid is an anti-nutrient, a compound that binds to minerals in the digestive tract and prevents them from being absorbed into the bloodstream. The minerals it binds most aggressively include zinc and magnesium, the same 2 minerals that are most critical for testosterone production and cortisol regulation. Zinc is arguably the single most important mineral for male hormonal health. It is required for the enzymatic conversion that produces testosterone. Men with low zinc levels consistently show lower testosterone, and here is the compounding problem. When you eat cashews as your primary nut intake, you may be simultaneously consuming a food that blocks the absorption of the very minerals your hormonal system depends on most. Cashews also carry a higher glycemic load than most other nuts. They contain significantly more carbohydrates per serving, which can cause sharper rises in blood glucose, particularly when eaten in large quantities or combined with other carbohydrate sources. Repeated blood sugar spikes trigger elevated insulin release. Chronically elevated insulin is linked to reduced testosterone production and increased fat storage, especially visceral belly fat. And visceral fat, as we noted with hazelnuts, accelerates the conversion of testosterone to estrogen through aromatization. Again, a small amount of cashews used as a garnish or mixed into a dish poses little concern. The problem is the large, frequent handfuls that many people habitually consume, believing they are making a healthy choice. Before I go, let me quickly do a recap of all I discussed in this video. The 5 nuts that actively support male vitality after 60 are walnuts, almonds, pistachios, Brazil nuts, and hazelnuts. Each one targets a different but interconnected aspect of vascular health, hormonal output, or penile nerve function. Together, they cover the full spectrum of what the male body needs to maintain energy, drive, and effective performance as it ages. The two nuts to limit, peanuts and cashews, are not poisons. They will not cause acute harm in small, occasional amounts, but relying on them as daily snacks can gradually work against the very goals you are trying to achieve: open arteries, balanced hormones, and healthy nerves. The swap is simple. When you reach for a snack, choose walnuts over peanuts. Choose pistachios over cashews. Keep a couple of Brazil nuts on your nightstand as a nightly ritual. Sprinkle almonds over your breakfast. Add hazelnuts to your afternoon routine. None of this requires a dramatic overhaul of your diet. These are small, sustainable shifts that compound over weeks and months into measurable changes: better circulation, stronger drive, more reliable energy, and the kind of confidence that comes from knowing your body is genuinely well nourished. After 60, performance is not a fixed destination determined solely by your age. It is a moving target that responds, sometimes dramatically, to the daily choices you make about what you put into your body. Choose the foods that work with your biology, and your biology will reward you. Thank you for sticking with me till now. If this video helped you see your snack choices differently, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel for more of this kind of valuable information. Don't hesitate to share it with an older man over 60 who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below telling me which of these nuts you are going to start with. I read every one of them. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next video.